This is part 2 of the NBA is back video. In part 1, I discussed exactly when everything was going to be returning, including the dates and when players were going to be coming back, how often players were going to be tested, those kind of things. I also went into exactly how the play-in tournament was going to work, the transaction period, the 8 regular season games. So in part 1, I kind of go into the detail of the structure of how everything was going to work when the NBA did return. Also discuss the teams that were coming back, and most of us are going to know that pretty much just off social media. But for part 2, I'm going to be discussing the legacy of the 2020 championship and what it's going to mean for whoever wins it. And I also do believe, depending on who wins it, is going to determine whether it has an asterisk or not. I'm Tricon. This is Unpopular Facts. Round of applause for the shortest intro of all time. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I'm listening to whatever little viewers that I have. I think right now we're 65 subscribers, which I'm grateful for. But we're listening to all 65 of you guys, and the feedback that we got was to go ahead and shorten our videos, and that's what we're gonna do. So it's just gonna be 10-minute videos. If it does extend past 10 minutes, we'll just go ahead and make a part 2. So we are listening to you guys. We do welcome constructive feedback. If you guys have requests or anything you would like for us to discuss or break down, just let us know in the comment section and we will make a video on it. And so as we get into the legacies of this NBA playoffs, it's important to note that nothing's changed as far as the contenders. Okay, it's still pretty much both LA teams sitting at 1 and 2, and then the Milwaukee Bucks. And then my personal favorite dark horse team to win the title is the Houston Rockets. But nothing's changed since March. I will say this. People are saying that, this 2020 championship is going to have an asterisk. Like I said, I think that's going to depend on whoever wins it. But as far as this title here, this may be one of the most competitive championships ever. There are no major injuries. Last year, you had Kevin Durant. He hurt his. Of course, he tore his Achilles. Klay tore his ACL. You remember a few years ago when Durant first joined the Warriors, you had Kawhi. He hurt his ankle. And then, and this is the first, probably, I don't want to say legitimate championship that we've had in the last 3 seasons. But last year, when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, that kind of ruined the whole suspense factor of the NBA. Okay, now that suspense factor is back. Okay, you don't know for certain that the Warriors or any particular team is going to win the championship. Okay, the Warriors took that away from us. The last 3 seasons, 2017, 2018, 2019, even though they didn't win it, and that's due to Klay and KD going down, it was pretty much a lock who was going to win the title. This season, that's changed, okay? For the first time in 4 years, it's up in the air. You've got a few different dynamics, especially the Rockets with the small ball. You got PJ Tucker at the 5, at 6'5", something that we have not seen since the 1950s or 60s, for crying out loud. And I think it's worth a try, okay? For the most part, you look at the Rockets, they performed well without Capella. Okay, and that's why they felt so comfortable trading him. And I made a video on Russell Westbrook. You can check it out after this. This is the first time Russell Westbrook has ever been in his ideal situation. First time he's ever had an elite coach. Mike D'Antoni is an elite coach. For the first time in his career, he's given infinite space. He's got shooters all around him, and it's reflective in his field goal percentage and efficiency. Now, he still can't shoot, but he's got the whole entire floor to work with. And then you have the Lakers, of course, they have more playmakers than the LA Clippers. I think the LA Clippers are more defensively sound when you talk about 1 through 5. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. We know that combination of two-way wings has worked for forever. Jordan and Pippen, LeBron and Wade. Okay, so that combination is always deadly. And of course, you got a junkyard dog and Patrick Beverly. So as far as defense goes, I think the Clippers check that box. I think where they're going to run into problems, of course, like I said before, playmaking. Kawhi Leonard, he's turned that into a strength this season. averaging 5 assists a game, which is a career high for him. Where I think the Clippers are going to run into problems is that they may have too many mouths to feed. Okay, you got Kawhi Leonard, okay, Paul George, and then Montrezl Harrell, then Lou Williams. Okay, all those guys are 18 and up scorers. Okay, you have another 18 and up scorer, Marcus Morris, who arrived from New York. Okay, he likes the ball in his hands. He's young. He likes to touch the ball. He likes to shoot the ball. So they may run into a problem where they have a lot of mouths to feed. And in the playoffs, when things slow down and, like I said, Lou Williams likes the ball in his hands. When he comes in off the bench, same thing with Montrezl Harrell. And so it's possible they may run into problems, especially with Montrezl Harrell playing for a contract. He can't afford to have his numbers drop in the playoffs, okay? That's detrimental to his dollars. So he's going to be looking to have a big playoffs, okay? Lou Williams is going to looking to have a big playoffs, okay? Kawhi Leonard, same thing with him. But the Lakers, I think their order is solidified, okay? We know LeBron's going to handle the ball. AD's going to get the majority of the shots. I think their structural order is like it is, okay? And I don't think with the veterans that they have on their team, it's going to be argued or anybody's going to try to revolt. That's more likely to happen on the Clippers, okay? You got younger guys who are playing for big contracts. That's more of an issue with the Clippers. But defensively, I think they're one of the better defensive teams in the league, if not the best defensive team in the league. And yes, that means better than Milwaukee. Milwaukee, with Giannis, I think they're going to come out of the East. I don't think it's even close. You guys know how I feel about Ben Simmons. Kardashian curse for 3 straight seasons. He looks exactly the same. He's not a superstar. If they need to trade anybody on Philadelphia after an early exit, because I think they are going to exit the playoffs early. It needs to be Ben Simmons. Okay, I say even trade Ben Simmons before even getting rid of Brett Brown. Okay, because you have a guy who comes back the same. The fact that he can't shoot jump shots is costing his freaking team playoff series, and he's still coming back the same every year. Okay, I think that's an insult to Joel Embiid, a guy who works hard. Averaged a career high 27-13 last season. Okay, he's regressed a little bit this season, so I think that's an insult to them. I think it was an insult to Jimmy Butler. Okay, but they paid the guy $170 million over 5-6 seasons. His value's at his highest. I think that's who they need to trade. Because you can bank on it, the guy's going to be absent again these playoffs. But as far as the East goes, I don't think, it's pretty much Milwaukee, and I think that's it. Toronto could surprise us, but that would be a surprise if they surprised us. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, I like what Kyle Lowry's doing this season. You just got to have a superstar in the playoffs, and there's left last summer after winning his ring. So I don't think they really pose any kind of threat. I like the Celtics. You look at Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I mean, obviously the departure of Kyrie was great for them. And you got Kemba Walker. I don't think that they're quite ready. I think Boogie Cousins going to their team is going to be a lot better for them than it would be for the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are kind of, they're highly coveting Boogie right now. But I like DeMarcus Cousins on the Celtics better, okay? The Heat already have Bam Adebayo, okay? And we all know the two traditional bigs thing, okay? Unless you got a stud at one of those spots, it's just not going to work, okay? The spacing just isn't going to be there. And I don't see them doing that, especially with the shooters that they have. I think they prefer to have more shooting on the floor, more floor spacing. And with Boogie tearing his quad, his Achilles, his ACL in the past 3 seasons, I just don't think he's going to be as dominant as he once was, okay? Enough to take that chance and step out of the norm, okay? Just may not be worth rolling the dice there. But I think you put him in Boston with a starting lineup of Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. And then him at the 5, I think that is more ideal for him and the Celtics. But we're going to talk about what this championship is going to mean for each superstar and each contender. You talk about the Lakers. We'll start off with Bron first, okay? He wins this, okay? It's going to be his 4th championship, first with the Lakers. And he's going to be, I think, the first superstar to win 3 championships on 3 different teams, okay? Him and Kawhi are both racing for that position. LeBron does this, you know, in some people's minds, he's already the GOAT, okay? So I think that'll further solidify him with some people. I think the whole finals record argument is stupid. You don't penalize them for losing in the first round, but you penalize them for making it to the finals. I think the whole finals record thing, the fact that that's come up in recent years because in order to negate LeBron's greatness, I think that's stupid. But for LeBron, if he wins the ring, you know, it's going to be brought up at some point in his legacy. Okay, he won the championship in the shortened season or yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's going to be the narrative for LeBron. Okay, even though, like I said before, this may be the most competitive championship with the least injuries of all time. Okay, after an 82 game season, after a bunch of playoff series, teams are banged up. All right, that's why the whole load management thing is coming with the evolution of the game. People try new things. Crossovers look a lot different than they did in the 60s and 70s. Okay, with the pace of play, there's room for more injuries. Okay, more injuries are gonna happen, and so which why I think there's a need for more load management. All right, so yeah, I do think this is gonna be a competitive run for that NBA title of 2020. But yeah, for LeBron, that's what it's going to mean for him. Of course, his 4th championship. For Anthony Davis, you got a guy winning his first ring with LeBron. That's going to push him up the list as far as all-time greatness, all-time great players, and all-time great bigs. Okay, I don't think he's ever going to be the best power forward of all time, but I think he can sneak it into number 2, and number 3. I don't think he'll ever be better than Tim Duncan. But you know, this right here helps the legacy of Anthony Davis a lot, okay? I don't think he wants to be one of those guys that never wins a championship. I don't think he wants to be known as a Charles Barkley or Karl Malone. Those guys are great, but he wants to be known as a Kevin McHale, okay? Tim Duncan, Shaq. He wants to be in the stratosphere of those guys. He's thinking of his legacy, and that's what this ring is going to mean for him. If Giannis wins it, he's going to be the first guy to win a championship without another superstar since Dirk Nowitzki did it in 2011, okay, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do. But he does have kind of like a team made up like Dirk had it. Okay, he had a good competent role players around him. Okay, you got Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez. He just revolutionized his game. So you know, guys hitting step back threes now. But for Giannis, for him to do that, that'll be fantastic. It'll be his first ring, and I don't think it'll be viewed the same way it would be viewed if LeBron won it. And for Kawhi, you got Kawhi. If he does it, he enters the GOAT conversation. Okay, we must understand that if Kawhi wins the championship, 3 championships, 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, okay, on 3 different teams, he enters the GOAT conversation. All right, before 30 years of age. You talk about the guy. He's already the youngest Finals MVP of all time. Okay, he won Toronto their first championship ever. Okay, now if he wins the Clippers their first championship ever, he enters the GOAT conversation. Okay, and it certainly does catapult him to top 10 at the very least of all time. But I do want to talk about the Rockets. I don't know, something in me just has me feeling that this team has more of a chance than everybody's saying. Okay, I do like the whole small ball thing. I love the fact that Russell Westbrook has more space than he's ever had in his entire career. But that's my dark horse team. Okay, James Harden, you got skinny Harden now. Okay, he's no longer beefy Harden. There's just something in me that's really pulling for this Houston Rockets team. But we'll see how they do. We'll see how this we're back, and I'm glad the NBA is back, but we're gonna see how all this pans out. I'm interested to see how it's gonna work as far as the narratives go for whoever wins the championship. But that's gonna be it. For the next video, we're gonna be talking about who deserves which awards, okay, and what that means for their legacy. Glad to have the NBA back. If you missed part 1, go check that out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Hit the notification bell. Tricon, unpopular facts. Till next time.